And welcome back to another episode of Won't Be Silent. I am thrilled to have the moderate case, which, if you're on social media, you know who he is and what he stands for, which is just honest truth and lots of facts. So, how you doing?
Doing good. I'm glad to be here.
Um, so your name, I'm happy if you just go by moderate case for the rest of your life, but if you want to share your name.
My name's Jacob. People who have weird fascinations with me have kind of found that out because my appearance on Al Jazeera had my name. And then on the upcoming Jubilee
Oh.
episode, it's also going to have my name. So,
So
Jacob.
what is the Jubilee? I saw a post about it, but what is it exactly?
So the Jubilee, it's a debate. It's a series that they have called Surrounded. They're a big organization that does debates on political and social topics, and it was one moderate pro-Israeli versus 25 pro-Israelis. They had made it seem as if we were going to be debating a pro-Palestinian, and they'd also told the guy in the middle that he was going to be debating like crazy far right wing nut conservatives for Israel. So they kind of were disingenuous in how they set the whole thing up. Um, but it was a good conversation. It was a lot more mature, respectful, and rational, opposed to a lot of the debates you see online where everyone's screaming at each other and trying to get, gotcha moments and stuff like that. It was a good time.
I actually think that's the worst part of how social media has evolved over the past few years, was just a bunch of people screaming at each other, trying to make them feel like they're wrong on how they feel. I actually think that's why we lost the Democrats lost in November, because you would just can't disparage people only to think that they're going to come around and see it. But it's very hard to get the Palestinian point of view, I will say, because I am working with a company called the Film Collaborative, and we want to do a podcast of Palestinian and Israeli filmmakers just coming to the table to share conversation about films, because first of all, there's a lot of misinformation, and we are having such a time finding somebody who just wants to come and have a conversation. It's so
Yeah.
I would imagine that probably happened there too, which is why they weren't able to deliver somebody.
Yeah, from what we understand, none of us who were there know for sure, but apparently they had already been recruiting, people on social media that are pro-Palestinians because, again, from what we think, they were trying to set up a similar debate for one pro-Palestinian versus like 25 crazy pro-Palestinians, like one moderate pro-Palestinian. So I'm not sure why they chose to not do a pro-Palestinian versus 25 pro-Israelis or vice versa, and why they did Israeli versus Israeli and Palestinian versus Palestinians. I'm not sure, but yeah, you're definitely right about the polarization and the screaming and back and forth. It's all for clicks and views. That's what
Yeah.
social media and political stuff is these days. So
Yeah, I'm sad, yet I'm not. My following, I've built up the whole following on TikTok, especially because of the 2020 election. And since the October 7th war began, my views have gone down to very nothing, because I speak up because I am of that faith and want peace, but I can't like understand how the whole world is turned against the Jewish population and whatever. But I
yeah,
just have to say, I'm going to put, you did a post, it's like 3 minutes of every reason why what Israel is sending to America, which
yeah,
is like art. So I'm going to post that in the notes so that people can watch it, because it didn't seem like you were reading it and that you were just all had it in your head. And that would just be, if you have that kind of mind, yeah,
yeah.
America needs you. You know what I mean? Not just Israel, but like the world, because that was incredible. Like, where did you research all that from?
It's just essentially what I did is I thought of the big general things that Israel gives to the United States, especially when it pertains to technology, medicine, and AI. And then I just kind of branched off of like specific devices or specific things that use software that comes from Israel. or and there's many types of software that come from Israel, whether it's AI, medical, anything, the agriculture, the greenhouse, modern greenhouses. Like, there's just so many things, and that's actually kind of why I sped the video up, because I was listing off so many things that it would have been
It's
like a
genius.
10-minute video.
No, it's literally brilliant. I'm so happy that you're like on this path of being part of the, political system. Just don't get the bad, just try to be a shining light towards the future of how we can move forward,
Yeah.
because the way it stands now, so much has to change, and you have to look at the next generation to be part of that. So and where you're from, what state?
I'm from South Carolina.
Well, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to let anyone know about, like what led you to being so interested in being so right about your positions on
Yeah.
Israel?
Yeah, I would say what led me to continue doing this, because again, I never did this before October 7th, was seeing how wrong the other side actually is. I didn't know that such a space existed online where people perpetuate these anti-Semitic tropes, these anti-Semitic claims, these falsehoods, this revisionist history about Israel and about Judaism, about rabbis, about the Torah, about all of these things. I just didn't know it existed. And when I posted my video, the original video that I made about the conflict was very simple. I said there was a partition plan. Jewish leaders accepted it. Arab leaders rejected it. From there, they have rejected any Jewish state. They refuse to live alongside a Jewish nation with Jewish people. Very basic. And then I got so many comments of people who had more questions. So I began answering them. And then all of these anti-Semites, crazy radicals came across my page, and they were just feeding me content, commenting lie after lie after lie. And I would just debunk them. I would take their comment, I would reply to it. And it just led to more and more and more and more people. And then I just kind of started finding videos that people were making when the war got, a lot of traction. It was blowing up on social media of, oh, Israel did this, Israel did that, the IDF did this. And that's how it started, with criticizing the IDF, but then it became a criticism of Israel's existence. It's an apartheid state, it's an occupation, they stole land, all of these terrible things. Jews aren't indigenous, they're white European colonizers. And just, again, seeing how so many people were wrong, how what they believed was inaccurate, ahistorical. It just led me to want to share the truth with people. And I've built a great base of support and followers who I think really appreciate what I do. And I don't do this for myself. I have other interests, American politics, but because people, use me as some source of education, entertainment sometimes, I want to give back to the people who have given me a platform. So I continue to do it.
So just to let everyone know that you're not Jewish. This is just you're just smart and
I'm not.
concerned as like a humanist, really, I would imagine.
Correct. I'm not Jewish, not ethnically or religiously. I'm American, and I'm a Christian. So yeah.
Well, look, I think, yeah, I would think you could probably, inspire a lot of people in your age group. Well, you just graduated college, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to reach out because I have been really touched by your voice in this moment. And for me, who's like already a senior citizen and whose parents are Holocaust survivors, living in a country where I can actually say, after seeing the rise of anti-Semitism, that I'm glad my parents are not alive to see this. It's really hits very emotionally for me. And to see someone shine through social media, which has become a cesspool of crap, that and it's what I originally always loved about social media, because I do believe it when it's in its pure form, it's this opportunity to find like minds and to just connect with those communities. But it's become so watered down and so like, just anybody has a voice, and that and misinformation has become the truth. So that's so much why it's such a pleasure to see your content, because you can track it back to that it's facts and not just some kind of fake talking point. I just worked on this research for a law review article called Words Matter. And it's all about how the media, especially legacy media, are so biased against Israel. And it's really interesting. I'm happy to send it to you. It's really informative. But with the war, and that happened to have been the work I'm doing, and now I'm trying to like, it's all been so much coming, kind of happening at the same time that, yeah, thank you very, very much for doing what you're doing. And yeah, do you have a website? I mean, it's any other show notes that outside of your social media platforms or not yet?
No, I haven't established a website. I just started writing on Substack,
I
which
follow you on
is yeah,
Substack.
yeah. I have a weekly newsletter. It's just titled "Between Extremes." I plan to dive into American politics as well at some point, but for the most part, right now, I've just been writing about Israel. My latest newsletter or article was about. It was titled "The Real Occupation in the Middle East," and it was a detailed article about Iran and Iran's influence over the Middle East and how Iran has been a force that has steadily, caused chaos and instability within the region.
Yeah, not to be usurped by Qatar, which is now
Yeah,
like, there's like a race to the bottom, only
yeah,
because there's so much money involved. It's like the bottom is like at the
yeah,
top because whatever.
yeah. Well,
Anyway,
Qatar has the money. Iran has the military groups and the militias.
yeah, I mean, it's not even worth asking how this is going to end because I just really do believe all we do have is today to kind of do the best we can and hope for the best and fight and fight. I mean, I just think it's unfortunate that this whole idea that our youth culture, which is why you're such like a special thing in this world at this moment, when you think of the youth culture and you students, you see them like their faces covered and they're screaming genocide. And it's almost like that's worse than the KKK at this point, because at you know what I mean? It's almost like not that we're trying to make apples and oranges, but it's just in knowing what the KKK had done to disparage people in this country and how much of an impact that had on a community, that it's like just they're doing the same thing. It's just that it's Jews, it's been transferred. And for people of color who have joined that bandwagon, like, whoa, I
Yeah,
have zero tolerance, even though my best friend is a black guy and he's kind of neutral, like, but how do you justify that? It just, yeah,
yeah. It's very sad. I think a big problem is that a lot of young folks, particularly people around my age, have this. They have this desire for social cohesion where they want to affiliate themselves with something greater than themselves. They don't see any purpose that they have. They don't see any value in themselves, so they try to affiliate themselves with a group, whether it be a group that does something physically or a group that holds this idea or ideology to give them that sense of value, to give them that sense of purpose. And a lot of the times it so happens to be these activist groups who are standing against certain things. You saw it with BLM. It became a trend. It became this big activist thing where everyone was doing it, and then it died down. You saw it with Congo and Sudan and Haiti for some time, and now you see it with the Palestinian movement. And you go to these college campuses, I've had friends that have gone and they've been to these protests. You ask half these kids, from which river to what sea are you trying to free Palestine? They don't know. They tell you that the West Bank is actually on the west of the land they call Palestine, but it's actually on the east because it's the West Bank of the Jordan River. See, they
right,
don't they don't know these things. They're
right,
not
right.
educated. They just, go with the flow and try to get themselves involved with groups of people to share this identity that gives them value because outside of that, they haven't found any true value in themselves.
Yeah, that's pretty much wraps up the youth culture. But just not only to age myself, but when the war in Vietnam was happening, right? Even though I was in grade school, like that was the youth culture at its best in terms of activated because we were losing American soldiers daily. Like every night on the 10 o'clock news, there would be like a roster of who was killed. It was
Yeah.
the country was in mourning. I mean, and these people don't even seem like they're in mourning. They're just like want to be angry and weird, you know. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna. I also kind of think it might be a little bit of a trend, which is even the worst part of being able to think that yes, they need community. Maybe it's an off, I mean, a direct kind of distant link to COVID when everybody was in lockdown, and now that they came back out, they all seem to have put on a lot of weight too, or whatever. And like our
Mhm.
congregate, they all look, it's like it's almost like weebles. It's this weird visual that, yeah, I whatever.
I see what you're saying. I totally agree with you.
Anyway, yeah, well, I just wanted to make sure that you know that you're, I'm sure people tell you all the time, but that from someone who takes real pride in who I am and what my people stand for and what we have survived over the thousands of years, that I know this too shall pass and I know that we will survive this, but it's not
Absolutely.
without the help of people like you, and that is invaluable, and thank you very much.
Absolutely. I'm happy to help. Again, I do it for people like you. I don't do this for myself. So always happy to help. I
If
love
you
the Jewish
find
people.
yourself in Los Angeles, let me know so I could take you to
Absolutely.
coffee.
If I ever end up back there, I'll be sure to let you know.
All right, good. Be well.
All right, man. Take care.
Thank you.